Good evening, good evening, good evening, family. Good evening, good evening. Welcome to Sidewalk Talk, the fifth official episode of this premiere series. You know, we coming to Netflix soon, but for now, we on Facebook Live, Sidewalk Talk, the fifth episode. So this is an online platform where we have real talk, right? Real talk about the streets of Newark, New Jersey. Okay. We have real talk to be able to gain insight, clarify misconceptions, and get a call to action from the people who know best, which is the frontline workers, the people that's in these streets, right, here in Newark, New Jersey, to be able to do the work that needs to be done. So they're in the streets, right? My guests here on Sidewalk Talk are in the streets and are giving us a call to action. So if you are tuning into Sidewalk Talk for the first time, right, I just want to take this opportunity to introduce myself. My name is Aaliyah Berry. And for those of you who may not know me or familiar with my work, so I'm a licensed social worker here in Newark. I have 20 years experience serving ages 0 to 60 in a variety of settings, right? So I've been in daycare, summer camps, after school programs, schools, K to 12, group homes, shelters, correctional facilities, just in a variety of settings, serving a variety of people. And so I consider myself a community-based social worker. And what that means to me is that social work, right, is not a 9 to 5. It's a lifestyle, right, family? It's a lifestyle. If you're out here doing this work the way it needs to be done, it doesn't happen only 9 to 5. And it doesn't only happen within the four walls of an agency, right? And of course, following professional boundaries, right? Licensed social worker, but at the same time, like, the work is always present. And so for me, community-based social work means that I find myself in baby showers, right? Graduations, but unfortunately also at sentencing hearings and funerals, right? Goal setting on the sidewalk, hugs at a red light. And so that is kind of, the perspective that I'm coming from for those of you who don't know me. So I currently work as a consultant with Seeds and Berries, and I do program design, training, and direct clinical services in schools, nonprofits, and government facilities. So to keep in touch with me, right, Seeds and Berries on Facebook, on Instagram, Aaliyah Berry on LinkedIn. You can find more about my services at seedsandberries.com. And this episode, as well as the first 4 episodes of Sidewalk Talk, right? Let's say you missed it. You just found out about Sidewalk Talk, right? Now, it's been growing. It's been growing, right? There's a learning curve. But the 5 episodes will be on our YouTube channel, on Seeds and Berries on YouTube. So definitely like and subscribe. Check out some of the other episodes. We did goal setting, social services in a pandemic. We did goal setting from a youth perspective, right? We have young people on this show, okay? Because we need to hear, from everybody's mouth what needs to kind of happen. So definitely check that out on YouTube. So that's enough about me, right? That's enough about me. I do want to quickly just talk about where Sidewalk Talk even came from and what is our goal on tonight? Like, what is our goal with this particular platform? So number one is those who aren't necessarily familiar with my work, I tend to serve individuals who are either unheard or when they are heard, they're misunderstood. Right. And so that is an issue, and it breaks my heart on a regular, where people are living in one community, right? And then there are groups within a community who are judged from afar, judged from across the street, right? That assumptions are being made about why they do what they do or why they would make that decision. But the fact is that if we don't understand the condition that drives folks' decisions, right, and we don't seek to understand where people are coming from, then groups of our community end up becoming alienated and further judged. And so that Sidewalk Talk is aiming to clarify misconceptions and have real talk about, things that aren't necessarily being discussed. And I would say the second piece of Sidewalk Talk is to lift up local organizations and the folks that are in the community doing this work, right? Newark, New Jersey, #believer, #Newark forward, right? Like, if you don't know about Newark, New Jersey and the revolutionary stuff we're doing over here, I don't know. You need to check it out. But there are amazing, amazing people in this city doing amazing frontline work. And so Sidewalk Talk looks to lift up that work and bring those people to this platform to be able to explore the truths that we all see when we outside. Right? So my fellow Trench siblings are here to have real conversations and also give us a call to action. Right? Because to be honest, right, it's a lot of emails and meetings happening. Okay? No, now meetings need to happen. I'm not saying meetings don't need to happen or emails don't need to be sent, but I'm just saying at a certain point, we need a call to action, right? And so Sidewalk Talk gives us a call to action so that we can all get in where we fit in and play the part that we all need to play, right? So that's kind of a little preface, some groundwork on Sidewalk Talk and, you know, what we want to do on tonight, okay? Now, before I get into the topic and my fabulous, powerful, dynamic guest, I just want to cover a little bit of housekeeping, right? And so I want you to like, tag, and share this stream, right? Like, love, right? Myself and the guests can see what we're doing, right? Over in the comments, right? So your liking and loving is showing us engagement. We're trying to, you know, this virtual life, but engagement is key. So liking and loving it just shows us, you know, your engagement throughout the conversation. And then tag, right? I already saw some people tagging other people. So tag some people that you think would be interested in this particular conversation. So just tag them in the comments and then it will send them a notification to join the conversation. And then number 3 is share, right? Definitely share because this class that we're about to have tonight is priceless. Okay? It's priceless. We want to be able to share for impact. We want to be able to share the message and for the message to go far and wide, to be able to get to who it needs to get to. Knowledge is power. And, you know, so like, tag, and share this particular broadcast. Okay. So I would say just a quick little, I guess, preface to the topic on tonight, right? So Sidewalk Talk, right? I'm the creator of Sidewalk Talk, and I did make an intentional decision to honor Black History Month, right? And so although Sidewalk Talk has real conversations all year, right? It is important to be able to honor the work and the history in the month of February. However, right, I did want to kind of make it clear that, like, as a former special education teacher who threw out the social studies books that was given to me, right, and wrote curriculum that was relevant to my students, you know, I do believe in teaching, learning, and living Black history 365 days a year. So that thing is important. However, the special honor that, you know, we take this month is definitely why Sidewalk Talk is doing this at this point. I would also just say, right, that it is not People of Color History Month, and it is not Black and Brown History Month. Okay? It is Black History Month, family. So when we say Black women, right, even the second episode that happens in February, we are talking about Black people and the Black community and issues and topics that are specifically dealing with Black people, right? Black and brown, people of color, that can be discussed, you know, later, right? So Black issues are being discussed throughout the month of February and including tonight, right? However, I would also say in regards to the call of action, because we will be getting our marching orders from our guest on tonight, right? And so the call of action is for all people, all men, all women. The call to action and our marching orders will be for non-Black and Black women, right? So the audience is very diverse of Sidewalk Talk. And so if you're not a Black woman and you're watching this, it's important that you stay tuned, right? You stay tuned and seek to understand, seek to understand the truths that are being discussed here tonight, and then get a call to action at the end. Okay, then I seek to understand. I understand what's going on. Now, what do I do about it, right? Okay, we're going to get that. And like I said, for all women, all men that are watching this particular live. The last piece I will say is it's going to be some truths that are being discussed on here tonight, right? It's going to be some truths, Good, bad, and ugly. And if you know my guest, you know that she's going to tell the truth. Unfiltered conversations. Unfiltered conversations. So if you know my guest, you know she's going to tell the truth. And look, it's good, bad, and ugly truths to every story, right? But we also are going to highlight the strengths and power-based narratives and resilience, right? So it's not necessarily just the bad truths, the defeated truths of any community. It's important that I just wanted to say that we're putting, still highlighting strengths, power, and resilience in the story that we're telling tonight. So, without further ado, though, it has come time. Okay, it has come time to introduce my guest. I wish I had a drum roll sound effect. Okay, which I don't. I'm not that fancy yet, y'all. But my guest here tonight. Okay, let me just start off by saying this. The topic is Black women, past, present, and future. Right now, Sidewalk Talk. I think about the topic first, and then I go through my community Rolodex. And I think about the guest who is most qualified to address that topic. Black women, past, present, and future as a topic. If you know my guest, you know it is nobody else that is as qualified for this topic. Okay? And that is the beautiful Ciasia. Okay? She is a hood healer, a spiritual teacher. She's a mentor. She is a street mother. She is a professor. She's a sidewalk professor, y'all. I have attended her classes at intersections. Shout out to NAVC, right? She's a professor all day. She's a lover of the people. She keeps her pulse on the people. And so, as a younger generation street mother, right, who's also giving hugs on the block, right? I have been watching the beautiful Ciasia for over 10 years. And so she has been a mentor to me, and maybe sometimes up close, but more so from afar, and me just tuning in to the words coming out of her mouth and the work that she's doing has had a profound impact on my growth and development. So I'm a little nervous today, y'all, because this is my street mentor that's here on Sidewalk today, Sidewalk Talk. But I would say that class is in session, right? Class is in session. This is the professor that gives hugs to the kid on the block that nobody even wants to talk to. Okay? All right. Who knows women and femininity and history. And I need y'all, this is the other Miss Berry, the teacher Miss Berry, right? I need y'all to get your notebooks out. I need you to get your notebooks out. Okay? I need you to get your notebooks out, pen and paper ready, because you will leave with buckets and bowls and suitcases of gems and diamonds and galore, information galore. And so I need y'all to get ready. Class is in session. I will say some of the former episodes was more conversational, that I had things to add to the conversation. I don't plan to do that tonight, y'all. Everything that needs to be said is in my guest's mouth. Okay? Everything that needs to be said, she has. So Miss Berry here, Aaliyah Berry, is going to sit and interview her, right? And just kind of get the information. My own schooling has failed me, right? So I'm here to learn with y'all, and this is what we're doing. So I appreciate y'all. Continue to comment in the chat. We can see your comments. So if you have particular questions or comments that you want to share, please by all means comment in the chat. Again, like, tag, and share. And without further ado, I'm going to bring in my guest. Hello, beautiful.
Hey, like,
Hello. How are you?
hey, boo, peace.
Hey. How are you doing?
Honor. That's so dope. It's crazy. When you're humble, you don't look at yourself as all it is. I'm just building.
I'm just building. And yeah, I had like 18 adjectives to describe you.
Where
So, yeah. So, question number one. Yeah. So, question number one. If you could please just, for those who may not know you, just kind of introduce yourself and let the audience know who you are, kind of what you do.
oh, peace, loves. So, Shouts to all the family in the check-in on beautiful C Asia Earth. Um, Earth coming from a culture, the 5% nation, um, that I have more so previously. I still represent the home team. You know what I mean? That's my foundation. That's my roots, the 5% nation. However, I'm so much more. You know what I mean? So, in order to still show my reverence and love when I make public appearances, it's beautiful Asia Earth. Asia, beautiful Asia sky. In terms of my attribute that I've acquired since I started to, as a part of the nation in 1897, that's my attribute. And that is really the segue into activism. As I acquired the teachings, began to unfold each part of me, and I'm just a grassroots healer. I've always tempered my ability to be more than what I could be now in terms of being some type of famous hood healers type shit, but I like where I am, and that is to be more of a family member with the people and us growing together, opposed to somebody that's so disconnected from the people that I'm on a talk show famous and I still can't communicate with the people that grew with me. This is just my public expression of my growth and development and my falls, my pitfalls, and my transformation. No fame. So my bio is just pretty much being passionate and being consistent about the love and a love for humanity and people through tough love tactics, and me being the first student of all of these lessons that I've come across. I'm my first student, and studying myself and studying women and men that's been in the same parallel walk as myself have been pretty much my school. And then I just share that publicly. I don't want a website anymore. I don't want a bio. I don't want all of that sticky shit that comes with this whole public persona stuff. I'm good where I am, and that's being reachable, being approachable. Even though I'm a deep chick and highly intelligent, my intelligence could put me in a place where I can't be connected with our people anymore. And I don't want that necessarily yet. It's when they become extremely toxic, and that'll never happen. That's what we're gonna discuss tonight for why I'm still a member of the family, a growing family. So
And that pulse, the keeping the pulse on the people and in the streets and in the community drives the work. How can you
and
how
just
can you initiate work from your living room? You
yeah,
can't, or from no talk show in Los
yeah.
Angeles, right? Like the pulse on the people is critical to maintaining the quality of this work. So we're gonna get right into it, right? So throughout this conversation, I mean, the past, present, and future. I mean, we kind of have already discussed the fact that like the past and the present are very interconnected, because like what has occurred in the past may still be happening, and then like has affected the present, and then all of that may or may not affect the future. But past and present definitely interconnected. So starting at our present, unfortunate or fortunate, depending on how you look at it, but our
Right.
present filled with a pandemic, right? COVID-19. What impacts have you seen COVID-19 have on the black woman?
Oh, COVID has been the mirror because COVID really sat our ass down and allowed us to really address who we are. Quarantine being the first uh, restrictor of this freedom that we've taken for granted, coming from some so-called post-slavery position. So we've been partying, we've been getting it in. We've been just tearing the shit up. You feel me? Popping bottles, being models, video vixens. You feel me? Bundles everywhere, girl. Fashion designer, catwalking, all that. Then when it came time to sit down to something that was much greater than our debonair, our flair, our sense of fashion and taste. All of that, all of that feminine arrogance.
Mm.
They said, sit your ass down. People dying out here. It's called COVID. Sit down. It's just like, oh, excuse me. Yeah. And we sat down. Yeah, you have to sit down too. Go get the other one. And so what that did was really put it in perspective, the power that we thought we had because of how this world that we created as quote unquote black people, this village that we have amongst ourselves here in America, and we just ignore everything else until somebody messes with us, whether it's the police shooting, something from the external world comes and penetrate that world, that bubble that we have through fashion, hip hop, the culture. We stay in this bubble. And then when somebody interrupts our manic flow, disguised with success and living our lives like it's golden, then we realize we don't have the power that we thought we had. And this self aggrandizement becomes something real. And that's what COVID did. COVID put things in perspective that, woman, you got 5 kids, you got to raise them now. They're staying home. Woman, what's your skills and your talent outside of beauty and fashion? It's now a non essential gig. Woman, you know what I'm saying? What's your domestic duties? Because now everything's a Uber Eats or you have to cook. So it was really the mirror. It's been the mirror in terms of where we've been and where we haven't been on the domestic front, on the communal front, on the self reflection. It's real. It really put things in perspective about what we have and what we really don't have. Just by simply sitting down and staying in the house and going nowhere, but everywhere here, everywhere. You like what you see. You like yourself. You like your accomplishments. You like your children. They're in the house
Do
full
you like
time.
your children?
You like your children.
Dang. Do
That's
you know your children?
Do you know your children?
Mm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
COVID. Stop it. That's COVID. So COVID has put that in perspective that we have to be still, gain some weight, because how you look ain't even important at that moment in March. I know for the tri-state, we ain't give a shit how we was looking. Our wigs were sideways, the nails was peeling off. Nobody was.
In April, right? We was in April.
In April, by the time April was here, you remember the memes? Eyelashes was
Yeah.
falling off.
And then the black market lash spots in the basement that the mayor was yelling like, if you don't get out people's basement with these lashes. But facts, Queen,
Yep.
facts. In April, that was
Yeah.
so. Like I hear you just saying, like really a magnifying glass. Like once everything stops, you have no choice but to look at what's in front of you, who you are, who's around you, what your life has been, where is your life headed. It's like a magnifying glass once you're quarantined with COVID. I mean, not with
Yeah.
COVID, but during COVID. So then, if that's kind of the present, and that may be the state of where folks are now. So then, let's kind of rewind, right? Let's take a trip down, into the past, right? And so, and this is a very loaded question, right, audience? I need y'all to know these are loaded questions, but I'm only here to ask them. But my guest has the answers. So this is a loaded question here, which is help us to understand the role of government policies and politics in the history of the Black woman and her family unit.
Oh wow. Um, well, one thing is clearly understood based on biology and science that the woman births the family unit, right? Whether she enjoys how it comes through or not, we're gonna, whether it was pleasurable or not, we're gonna be the ones to house and birth the nations. So it's always been understood from a military and strategic point of view that having our mind and having our interests is pivotal to dominance and racial control. So the government knew that. And one of the things that have been done was the intentional sabotage of the economy that our fathers and grandfathers worked in while they had families and children. So whether that was the mining industry, whether that was the labor industry, the factories, the warehouses, just all of the steel industry, all of the former industries that used to provide employment for our fathers and our grandfathers to take care of us, and how they were moved, and the flight and the federal protection for them to do so, and bastardize their families. Because then the next and I'm basically talking for the last 50 years. I really don't want to speak too much about any uh, prior errors in time, because that's a little bit too ahead of me and that's hearsay. But the people that are still alive that experience what I'm talking about now can share this, that this is the truth. So that's what I'm coming from, a perspective of folks that are still alive that can verify what I'm saying, right? So then welfare came in to be the dad, the abstract dad, to replace the physical presence of our fathers by providing benefits or misbenefits, which required him to be out of the house and him to not be able to provide. But in lieu of his absence, you'll get all the comforts: food, clothing, and shelter, furniture vouchers, medical, with a rope around his neck. And women began to also be, Black women in particular, began to be infected by the idea of Jewish feminism imposed on them, the women's movement that began to uh, streamline through our culture, whether it was through HBCUs and sororities and Freemason lodges, uh, common culture, television, radio, ads, marketing, just all of those psychological um, stringings of our mind, of our mothers' minds. And that women's movement from the early 1900s wasn't our struggle, it was another group's struggle. And then that woman was bored, rich, just decided to make some movement of this around the dissatisfaction of being an oppressed woman who couldn't work and didn't have the equal rights of men. And Black women followed that. So welfare was completely fine for her, while the men became addicted to heroin out in the streets because he can't reach his family, became so depressed and so immersed by sadness of the disconnect, how he just cannot even lay next to his women and children, nor have the resources to provide for them. And it's not a justification, it's just history. And then welfare became a way of life, something that also became celebrated through television. Something like Good Times didn't necessarily save food stamps, but it let you know that they were poor living in public housing. Florida wasn't working, James was, and James was always getting fired. So how were they taking care of three children? James got the chance to stay because he was keeping a job per se, but he was always angry. And then you had Claudine, you have movies with Diane Carroll and James Earl Jones. That was the what we thought was entertainment, but was really a documentary of what was going on in our households, which was dad is on the outside. She got multiple kids' fathers. She's struggling on her own. They're raising themselves at home. And she's on welfare and she's constantly hiding her boyfriends in the closet so they don't catch her being in a relationship while she's in a relationship and a contract with the government to take care of her children. And then that shit became something that was talked about in hip hop or sung about. And we actually began to celebrate this craziness that our fathers was outside the house. And the same bastardized boys that misbenefited from their fathers being out the house actually made it. culture, celebrated as culture. We in a club like this, to our fathers being out the house, to our fathers being addicted to crack, alcoholics. So that's the first or one of the pivotal ways in our lifetime how the government have been instrumental in Black family, or lack thereof, instrumental in the destruction of Black family by our consent.
And so it's like an intersection of, policy, and then policy driving norms, which then drive culture, and then media comes into play and just like pushes it, pushes it, pushes it. So I heard you mention then heroin, alcohol, crack. So then the next question is just like, so the policies, your example with welfare, but then even politics, like the two-party system and laws, because the next question has to do with drugs. So like the role of government in drugs and how that then impacted the Black woman and her family unit, which you kind of already alluded to, but we're going to get dive deep.
Sure. Yeah, so then when you speak of the political role in everything that I just stated in terms of the economical and the physical destruction of father and home, there's the Democratic Party piggybacking off of all of this, you know, creating this codependent socialist system, this suckling system of a woman feeling so comfortable to continue to have children while in poverty. Like nothing. Everything is totally codependent. Food, clothing, and shelter. No education. No skills, no trade, no talent. She might know how to clean her house. She might know how to, do odd jobs, but really being in a position to financially take care of her children, no. But she felt comfortable from somewhere to continue to birth children into this state, this economical state. And the Democratic Party has been very instrumental of being the influential voice and spellcasters amongst our mothers and our grandmothers that it's okay. We got you. Just as long as you understand that no father, and however we do him, you mind your business. Your business is to show up for recertification. Your business is to hide him when we show up as case managers and vote Democrat. And that don't mean they love themselves in that process. They hated themselves. So they became depressed as well based on their destructive life choices. And then when the disco ball stopped spinning and the disco floor changed into something called the 80s techno sound, and then a lifestyle around that, Studio 54 closed its doors, and all the bedazzling of the glitter of the disco ball stopped spinning. It was just you. And then the birthing, the more of the birthing and flowering of hip hop. And that is the celebration of poverty. And in that influence, soon as they saw the influence and the power of hip hop amongst poor people, just right there at that moment where there was no hard hit drugs from like 1978 to 1984, you saw people making it regardless to whom or what, and having joy in this crazy shit. We found a way to still have our spirits up, not being impacted mentally per se by the system. And I shout to my brother Jamel Shabazz, who covered this joyous period in his photographic that documents the East Coast per se, mainly Brooklyn and parts of different parts of New York City in a time before crack. And then came crack. And a lot of those women who were on welfare and a lot of those women who were struggling in those times were sexually abused, um, were orphans, were byproducts of slavery, You know what I mean? Meaning people that never recovered from the psychological conditions and it passed on to the children. And so there was a deep spiritual conflict and and needing and the need to escape from all these children, the father that's just not gonna come back, the comfort in all of this. And then came crack, it hit our communities, and it fell into the laps of the mothers, and in turn promised her own children gold if he sold it, maybe even to her or his friends' mothers, and the, the destruction just deepened. And then once the mother became addicted to crack, I've heard so many stories with my friends, three is too many, where the mother got the man addicted to crack, not the other way around. Whether it was her sticking a needle in the arm of my one of my brother's fathers, his father, with what was it, blue magic, stuck the needle in his arm, he was hooked. So, those different things of how everything from the 1900s, 1800s came fast track right back into our community as soon as welfare and the Democratic Party came in, and civil rights where it's supposed to have gotten better. But that is the evidence that it didn't. We're recovering from something that was supposed to be improved based on the civil rights movement of the 1960s, and we actually are worse, just more powdered up.
Disguise. Yeah, I was
Disguise.
going to say it's a
Oh,
thicker
great word.
disguise. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So then, I mean, in describing that history, right, through the policies and politics and the role of the government and how that impacted the family unit, thus the
Mm.
community at large, and how the drugs shifted and changed the community at large, the psychology of the woman, right, also through that history and up to present, but like the psychology of the black woman has shifted. And so like, how would you I mean, you've kind of already described what her psychology, how she was, what her mental state was, but then how is that tied to her children,
Mm.
raising her children? And then once
Mm.
you're raising the children to turn them into a community at large, how does that affect the whole community, and affect generations to come? I know that was like a real multifaceted question, but like the psychology of the woman to her children through rearing them, to the community at large because then those children contribute to the community, and then the generations to come.
Let me
And good
just.
and bad, right? Good and bad. The strength based psychology, and the one that needs improvement, but good and bad.
I'm sorry. I hear you, Queen. I'm just looking at what my granddaughter's over here writing on papers, passing to. I'm like, why does she keep coming behind me getting paper? But she
She
writing.
giving notes. She wants.
We own the city, and God made us to fight for our rights.
I know that's right. I know that's. But
The letters
she.
are kind of backwards, but she doing this at
No,
7.
she the second guest.
Yo, this is my baby. We can't let them make more of our people dead. This is her writing this just now, just passing it. We have to fight this COVID. It's the grandbaby, 7 years old. I ain't say
But
nothing. God did not make us because we live and we die and we fight for our rights with a heart.
she being raised right. You laughing, but she being raised in power right there with you. Out of the mouth of babes. They paying attention. These
I am a God. Are they
absolute.
not? Yeah, baby. No, I'm gonna leave them here. Thank you.
They're paying
The people
attention.
leave. Um, and here we are.
Generations to come. They're paying attention. The seeds are planted in good soil.
Um, this is why it's so important, our position and our condition, because like you said, no more of my paper. Get out of here. The children are listening. They're listening. And we could just plant the seed. And you know, they're gonna still make their choices and decisions, but I get to sleep at night if I know that I did the best that I could, right? But And in reflection of your question, when women became addicted to these drugs, the children were left to fend for themselves. They were left. I remember it. I mean, my mother didn't get high, but a lot of people around us, mothers did. And to remember what happened when looking back at it, it again, that was the era where we start to powder things up and let let Paid in Full, let New Jack City, let these movies from the 80s and the 90s be the evidence of how we made it look good. Even Beach Street, that people were in poverty, people were homeless, people weren't living, you know what I mean, in safe conditions in a home, but we had fashion and they were, it was toying with our psychology that it's okay to have Adidas and Flash and what's his name, Dapper Dan's clothing, while the mother's out getting high. The kids is in Suzuki Jeeps selling drugs, four finger rings, stacks of and layers of gold chains, but his mother's being served around the corner. His mother's sharing needles, being diagnosed allegedly with AIDS. And so the son and the daughters became so resentful, she either became the drug dealer's daughter or he became the drug dealer. That's what happened to the homie. He didn't want to wake up and see his mama like that. So, in order to feed his brother and sister while his mother was out there, he saw the older ones making a killing off of his mother's addiction. Father ain't nowhere to be around. Remember, he can't come in the house. That's now culture, single motherhood. And then follow the Jewish women and complain about it. Well, it's not her situation. So the children raised themselves in the 80s and the 90s. And we were in junior high school. YGs was coming to school with MCM suits on, plated rings. We were in the seventh and eighth grade. Dudes had two piercings in 8 years, gold earrings, Guyanese gold, you know, 24 karat gold, velour suits in junior high. They were driving in junior high, right? High school. But it was freshman year.
Them sixth graders was driving too, just not like they were supposed to.
Think,
But
think
yes.
about think about high school is about stop. Oh, you want to blow bubbles? Yeah, that's cool. High school is what? 14? Niggas was coming to school driving cars kitted out. Interior leather, custom leather, MCM Gucci, while mom was high. He hated her. He was mad as hell at her. You know what I'm saying? And she became something that was starting to steal his stash while he was out getting hoes, getting women, getting girls, not even women, girls pregnant in the club at 14, 15 years old, little kids. That was our era. Out of our damn mind.
And so let's tie it back to, let's bring it up then, right? Because as I said, we're going to go past present a lot, back and forth. So then, like, presently, the psychology, like, because I've noticed a shift in the value on money, right? And with the young people, like the same ones you're describing, like the 14, 15, 16, 19, like the shift from valuing money to
Mm,
valuing power,
yes.
right? Yeah, they not interested in flipping no brick now, right? Like the
Now,
little ones, right? So my question is, how does
they are
the
into the bread.
what
They are they are into the bread
and the guns? But
and the
yeah,
good. Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
then it's like, how does even the psychology of the woman present day affect the young people finding their way in the streets now, or in the community? Not necessarily the streets, but
Well, see, the thing is, the way that the YGs are in the streets now is literally through fantasy because in the 80s and the 90s that was a reality. Like people were out there. There was corner boys. There were kingpins. There were, you know, runners on the block. There were people there. So, and there was a real clientele. There was fiends galore, more people. I mean, I'm telling the truth.
Mm-hmm.
So people had a reason in their mind to have cliques and sets to protect territories and turf based on the demands, the human bodies that were there, and the laws that wasn't as stressful as they are now in place to stop and interfere with that demand and supply, right? So that's real. The people that were out there back in the day had a so-called legitimate reason for being there because it was plentiful. But now, because of stricter laws, because of, gangs and homegrown terrorism and patriot acts and murders and all of this shit in the prison system and the industrial complex, these children are now living that life vicariously through movies, video games, and their rappers. Because there's nothing on the streets that indicate why they have to be these gangsters. The big homies, it got so the bodies became so diminished that there was no longer a big homie in these gangs running these streets that was 30 years old. It got, and you bear witness to it.
Mm-hmm.
These niggas is 4 and 5 star at 18
Yes.
because
Yes.
they're running out of bodies.
Yes. And the big homies
All
behind the
the
wall
homies
with me.
that are
Yes.
in jail,
Yep.
and you're
Yep.
counseling them.
Yep.
So now they're in jail.
Mm-hmm.
You're now counseling babies at 18 years old who are actually, they got babies underneath them at 14, 12, 11 because they're, as the scene in Sonny Carson, how old are you, boy? 13. 13. Damn, they must be running out of niggas to lock
Mm.
up.
Mm.
So it's the same thing with this. The children are basically mimicking what they're seeing on television, and it's their way of eradicating the last Mohegans through these rap stars. Because realistically, there's no meat out here. It's all bone. So that's why they're doing very demonic stuff because it's from a place of desperation. There's really crumbs out here. People are putting bounties on people on somebody's head for $100 these days
A
because
hundred
it's diminished.
dollars. A hundred
It's
dollars,
diminished.
sis.
A wet, get a nice vial wet,
Mm.
and your head's knocked off.
That's
That's
facts.
so that shows you
That's facts.
the bodies are gone. And the mindset of them mimicking their older brothers and their uncles and watching them being 15, watching Paid in Full, bruh, that was 30 years ago. You are now scraping for reputation. You're scrapping for it because it's not here. It's so bad in terms of the genocide that now that reputation is being transferred into the virtual world, which is social media or the video games, because there's nobody to show off for in the streets. Now you a 5 star general on Call of Duty. Now you a 4 star general on your Instagram clicks, your drill clicks on Instagram.
So we digressing a little bit because,
But I'm just
and
saying
you know,
that
I will digress with you. No, that
so
part.
so the role of the mother on
That
that,
part. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
role of the woman on that
Yeah.
is not knowing that.
Right.
Is not being street smart enough to know what's
Right.
going on.
Right.
Ma, where you at? You're supposed to know this code. You got sons. Know the code decade by decade because it changes. And as it changes, the FBI, the police agencies change law. The government changed law based on these changes of the head count, based on the supply and demand and the next thing coming out in the streets. And as a mother of sons in Black culture that you know has a strong hold on the behaviors and functions of our children, because you were in it, Mom. know the code, know what's going on in the streets. She's very instrumental. The video game has the soundtrack for them to live this life now through the video game. You that you bought, you're the one that's supporting the earplugs and the iPhones and the very tools that's essential for him to be in the youth house, providing the essentials so you don't raise him. You need something else to raise him besides you.
So that's a
And
yeah. No, keep going, keep going.
no, 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 go ahead, add on.
Because the besides you part, that's a perfect segue to the next question regarding family planning, right? Like,
Yes,
who are we
yes,
then if it's
yes,
besides me, right? And we've come from where you've already described the celebrating single motherhood, right? And now it's who's raising them besides you and these headphones, right?
yes.
Then it's looking at, and so this in full transparency, and I told you this, like for years, I've heard this question right here come from your mouth on multiple intersections, shutting it down, which is the family planning and like who are, who are the babies being made with? How are we screening our partners? And I talk about this with men a lot as well, just like screening
We
partners.
not.
So, Queen, talk to us about family planning. What has it been? What does it look like now? And from a strength-based perspective, like what do you hope it what do you want it to look like starting tomorrow? What has it looked like? What is it look like now? And what do you want to see it look like in the future? Family planning, who are we making babies with? How are we screening our partners?
Oh, girl, I feel
I
like
see
rubber
your
bullets.
head. Like,
I
word.
feel like rubber bullets
Had to
every
take a
time.
deep breath. Word.
Stop, stop. Um, Family planning is how we got here, or the lack thereof. Absolutely no strategy. We literally procreated children, the woman from, or the girl, myself included, off the knocking the boots culture, knocking the boots, bump and grind culture, right? R. Kelly and H Town and Keith Sweat were the Luther Vandrosses of our era, and it became very descriptive in terms of can we go half on a baby? But that system was still in place, welfare. You know what I'm saying? Those stripes was still in place. But so now R&B artists or whoever or hip hop artists are now being put in place to to brainwash us to be baby mamas. For real, for real. We were single mothers in the 70s. Our mamas were single mothers. But then we became baby mamas. And it became a mantra and it became a chant and an anthem. And that men actually wore that as a badge of honor to have baby mom. Not even men, boys. A badge to have a baby mama. No knowledge required. You ain't got to know her sign. You ain't got to know her social security. You got to know the DNA if her family's a bunch of suckers or not. You don't know. You don't have to care about diseases in the family. You don't have to care about the condition of the household. None of that. The badge of honor that rap culture and R&B culture, the 80s and 90s created or conditioned, not created because we consented, was the culture of the baby mama, baby daddy era. And there was no standard of requirement. We were all in the sound of music, literally, and at the beat of that culture. There was a whole culture created around that. Hooky to go screw, drop out of school to go screw, motel rooms, hotel rooms, go sneak in your parents' house. No love making, no family planning, no courtship, none of that. And no, and the parents weren't around because they were getting high or they could not control us. Because the 90s was a serious mind control campaign around black anger. Anger. We were angry. We were the generation of the 90s. You could look up sports, look up Mike Tyson. Remember, recall Mike Tyson, recall the rap group South then. Recall the movies out then. Everything was around angry black boys, angry black girls, tempers, slam, do, break them up, shake them up, show the ball head, one gun, two gun, three gun, four. Your mind is all about crime. And everybody was in the pride around criminality. Albums was named around criminality, labeled, and we created a culture around criminality, including being baby mamas and baby fathers. The crime around the lack of family planning, we did not care. To answer your question, Queen, we wanted something to have a baby. Baby could be ugly as shit. Baby father could be busted as hell. Baby mama could be a straight bum. We ain't care in the 90s. We just wanted that badge. My baby daddy, my baby mama. We was in the culture around criminality and it had no responsibility because we didn't have our parents there to raise us. We was wild, we was brolic, we were bastards, we ain't had no fathers. Ugh.
And then present day.
And now present day, the prisons are filled with those bastards for the last 25, 30 years. And their son, you know, who was that? I watched a video 2 weeks ago where a brother said he remember he was locked up. And when he was locked up, the father was in the yard with him. And then his son came in. And his father was proud to introduce his son. And some of you might have seen this video of this brother explaining the story. The father was proud to introduce his son and say, this is my son, and they in the yard together, you know?
For
And then now
clarity for the audience, in prison.
in
For
prison.
because not all the audience may know. But
So,
okay.
right. So in prison, how the father introduced, his son to everybody in the yard. And that was a badge of honor to have his son right there in a sense. You know what I'm saying? And then it hit the brother that was telling the story when he was locked up with these two brothers that shit was crazy because a Caucasian CO came in with his son on a tier to introduce, he was training him. And so the dynamic of a father and son as inmates, and then the dynamic of the father and sons as correctional officers, and how more of us are in a position, Black people are in a position of being the inmates, while our crime, our culture, our demonology creates jobs for a whole other group in these small towns across America. And the women are home on Instagram, making it look good, having more babies in the same broken cycle and system. Here's the truth. One time we had a rally out there in Newark, and the baby mother lost both of her children's fathers under the age of 4. The oldest one was 4 years old, rather, and there was a baby. One was killed in Little Brookstuff, one was killed on Elizabeth Avenue. You see, so that's what we want for ourselves. There was no cultural dynamic put in place in the 90s that it's okay to whip your man in the shape, to help him get out of his insanity and his mania and his anger and the hex of why he is doing this to himself, his community, his people. And the girls benefited greatly from these kind of boys. Benefited greatly for boys to be this way. Bamboo earrings, onyx earrings, Sherlin, you know what I'm saying? Bob cuts. Her family are bums. They're broke as shit. They ain't really got nothing but because she's his girlfriend, who's another bum, but the drug money make it look good. She's good with being materialistic, and he's good with keeping up with the appetite of the girls who are being trained by their broken mothers, who are being trained by the rich Jewish women. So we want their fashion, their hairdo, their gaudy jewelry for those who got the father in the house. So she's the mother The grandmother is essentially mimicking her, trickled down to the daughter who was raised on welfare and undereducated, who is now dating the other undereducated boy that's the neighborhood drug dealer, and they create families like that. When the girl could have just said, "Get your ass off this block. I don't want nothing you give me. Nothing. There's nothing you can sell to get my baby. There's nothing you can sell or give me or gift me with to be your girlfriend." But we as daughters, or they as daughters, were mimicking these wealthy white women who were in different positions who had fathers in the home.
So it reminds me of, like, specifically, I can hear exact conversations when I was working in high schools with girls, and like the thrill they would have to get in the stoli. Like, I know he told me don't touch the handle, and I say this behind the wall to the men, and they laugh, right? But like, girls is begging to, and yeah, it's not funny. Like, girls begging to go on missions, sis. And he like, no, stay home. And she like, but I can't, like, right? And I'm speaking in general, right? I'm still certified. I ain't saying no, nothing not confidential, but like, he told you don't touch the handle of the car that he picked you up in to go on the date. And like, yeah, and then when he take chase and he hit the speed bump and my head hit the ceiling, that stuff be fun as ever.
I've been there.
And so, like, but, and then talking to the young men, like, because, yeah, like, bees love them some, like, street boys, Miss Berry. That's why I got into it, to get some bees. You know what I'm saying? So, like, that right there about the present and just, like, the thrill of them chasing, and the boys know it. So, yeah, I'm going to go pick her up in a stoli. She loved that thing. She loved when I pick her up in a stoli. Like, it's deep.
Just because the action around all of this,
Mm-hmm.
what
Mm-hmm.
we're chasing, right? The
Mm-hmm.
action. People want to always feel like they in a movie. We in a
Mm-hmm.
movie. What was
Yep.
the movie?
Yep. Yep.
As soon as television came out 100 years ago, everybody wanted to experience what that actor and actress is experiencing.
Right.
Meanwhile, they're imitating your life.
Right.
You don't have to do that. You are the stage. Art is literally imitating life.
Mm-hmm.
And we
Mm-hmm.
thought that we needed to mimic that. So it's
Mm-hmm.
just like a cycle within a cycle within a cycle. It's crazy.
Right. So where do we go from here? In regards to family planning, right? Like, in regards to family planning, like, I'm going to be selfish. Give me the call to action. Give me the marching orders in regards to family planning. Even with the girls, like, I work with girls too, but it's like, what do you want to see? You're the professor of family planning. What do you want to see in the
Based on
future?
my own failure, based on my own failure of family planning. Okay. So it started with me because who I am today, I would have not chosen today, in terms of co-parent with. Um, so I want us to stop perceiving thug life or materialism as power. That's not power. What girls were attracted to then was the perception of power. And if anything mimics that so-called master, such as those worldly possessions, it seems and appeared that that black boy or male had power. And as you can see, no matter how many 80s pages that you follow on Instagram, or how many movies that you watch, or if you recollect on the past of where all these kingpins are, they're not winning. They're not winning. Game over. They failed. That power was false. So the female has to stop chasing the appetite of the white woman. Her luxury comes from her man ruling the world, and his desperation and his knowledge and his wickedry and his evil at any cost to do it, because there's a period that they're coming from that vowed never again to be in that condition. So they come from conditions that are just as heinous as what we're going through now, that made that declaration of war never again. Some say historically that was the caves. Some say it was the ice ages. It was, dynasties and wars and takeovers, whatever the case may be. There was a turning point for the people of the dominant society today that had said never again. It was clearly enough was enough. And the women birthed their leaders. And the women shaped their goons. They shaped their pioneers that would crusade from the last 1,000 years to get them out of the position and condition they were in. So we have to have our defining moment of being fed up and declare never again for this lifetime, and let go of all of those earthly possessions and nothing that's instantly gratifying, and begin to sacrifice and know that your future are going to be free based on what you let go now and today regarding power, the perception of power. Whether you think you got a job in politics, woman, whether you think because you work a job, or whether you think you got your daughter's file, whatever the case may be, whatever your idea of a powerful child is, it's not true. You have to be totally deprogrammed from the world that you have been made today, Black woman. You have to deprogram. You are not powerful. You are not creating and birthing leaders. You are not being scientific about how you procreate. You're still very dependent on a society that's telling you what a leader is. No one told those people that were in a dominant society and those higher families what leadership is. They just knew they had to conquer in order to get there. And even if it's evil, if it's wicked, they had to do what they had to do to never be in the position they were in again. And that meant no one ever said that Christopher Columbus, for example, was rich and he got the chance to benefit from his from the moment of bloodshed that they had to go through in order to become what they are today. We got to go through the same process. You're going to have to let it go. You're going to have a bum leg. You're going to have to sail the wooden ships too. You're going to have to get cannons. You're going to have to get used to bloodshed. You're going to have to let the comforts go of false power. You're going to have to assign yourself and your sons militarily to be in a position to protect and defend themselves at all times and conquer. That's the way it is. Dog eat dog world. And once women get in that truth that I birthed my soldier, I don't birth baby daddies. I don't birth things I have to attach to. I don't birth my male children to possess them, to own them, to make put fear in them. I birthed them to be our vanguard. They're born soldiers. They're born to get commands to protect and defend. The masculine, the masculine and the male body was shaped and biologically fashioned to protect and defend, not wear better wigs than me. That's just the truth. His structure, his physique was not made to wear tighter jeans than me. He was made and shaped and fashioned to be born protectors. It shows in the biology of the male. He is he is literally armored. And in order for him, human armory, and in order for him to want to be like a female when he's sexual, he has to literally go through surgical procedures to fashion himself like a female because he was born as a protector, born as a physical defender. And when the women recognize that and remember that and get out of this brainwashing that they're in, they'll birth sons to let go who are going to make the same sacrifices as George Washington made, as Thomas Jefferson made, as Christopher Columbus made. And then they won't seem so evil. You'll understand that our condition is so damn dire that you are birthing males to specifically carry out this mission of getting us out of this hell. Nothing else, like they did. You begin to understand that your enemy ain't your enemy and that you begin to actually admire them. That when they had a particular idea in mind, manifest destiny for America, they meant that shit. And now here we are as slaves having a conversation on how to undo what they did 500 years ago. That's somebody's son. Christopher Columbus come from a woman. George Washington come from a woman. You see what I'm saying? General Lee come from a woman. She knew she was bursting booms, and you go out there and take us to the next level. Because never again. So when the black woman declares never again and decide to let go of all that cute shit that she's into, the bundles and the weeds, and stop thinking she perceives power the way she does, and actually get in tune with what power really is, we'll come out of this condition in about another 100 years.
100.
That's the sacrifice. You will not live to see it. You will not live to see it. I will not live to see it. You think that they thought that they were going to see it? They are not. That's about power. It's not instant gratification. You got to know it's for
Yeah.
tomorrow, not now.
Yeah.
Now
So
has to be uncomfortable.
and so that piece, I mean, that pretty much like unless you want to add to it, but that part answers the call to action. And if you want to add to that for black women, but then as mentioned at the beginning of the show, it's like also a call to action for non-black women, whether that be brown, white, yellow, red, you know, but non-black women, what is the call to action too?
Well, the condition that I'm also expressing applies to them too. There were Caucasians that they didn't necessarily experience the narrative around slavery the way we did, at least for America. They were servants, they were slaves, but they were not chattel slaves, right? So they may have experienced that in their time as Nordics and as Anglos somewhere in some other part of Europe. That's their story. They get to do them politics with their people. But on our land here in America, the one where our blood spilled at, right? Um, they realize now that they were used to keep us oppressed. They were used. The Donald Trump love story is a perfect example of a different bloodline of a European that used people that look like him but not clearly not of the same bloodline to get a mission accomplished. And they've always done that. Trained a lower society of Europeans to mistreat us, to be overseers, if you will, at the convenience of creating and establishing a dominant society. And so, therefore, dear, you're just as disarmed as we are. You know what I mean? The call to action for the Caucasian woman is to realize that, boo, you know better. You never were any better. You were used this entire time. In fact, you're in the era, Asian, white, Latino woman, of learning that you were used to remove yourself from your resources in your country to come here to benefit from the one that we created. Our people created. Can you give me my charger right there? Our people created. So everybody's basically removed from their seat in order to be fools in America with us. And the call of action is for everyone to wake up from the slumber and to recollect on history that we're all in the same position and that there's a strong dynamic of people that have benefited from everything that I just discussed. Everybody has their version of what we went through. The Ukrainian mother has a story for how she was duped. The Chinese woman has a story about how she was duped. The women of South America have a story of how they would do. It may not be the same as the Black American women. The Caribbean women, the Jamaican women, the Guyanese women, they all have a story about how they lost their way. I'm just expressing how we lost our way in American culture. But I need every woman on earth to reflect on how you lost your way and how your people lost their way and how the women of your society helped them lose their way based on what you wanted to do, based on what your grandmother wanted to do. What she wanted to do, come to America, perceive that life was great in here, the land of milk and honey. Well, now you realize you were used and that was a lie. And that there were natives and people that were indigenous to this journey that have been stepped upon for you to come here. But you're in the same position. You were duped too. You left your territory to be here, the land of the foolish. And the call to action is for us to all realize that these material things are temporary, and that to begin to raise and rear your children to possess human respect and create principles and household dynamics that focus specifically on respecting other human beings, and to study why we're all here and the lessons that we have learned by mistreating each other, by dismissing each other's history. Learn one another's history, learning one another's language, care about what your fellow person have been through. So you can, that reverence will be how we unite. That respect for what your journey and your path has been is how we'll unite. Anybody that is in America is supposed to learn the story about what we've been through, including Armenia, and try to identify with that with your people without pointing the finger at the people that helped build this country. Black people tend to be greatly targeted and projecting on why everything is happening in the world, why everything is happening in America today. Everybody focuses on Black people. And Black women are leaders of that shit. We run the households. Speak up. Become self-journalists. Create podcasts. Don't just be online showing your eyelashes and your wigs. We're now in a social transformation right now. And so with this social transformation, as you get the same skills to put the lights up to do beauty blogs and makeup blogs, none of that shit matters anymore. It's time to get back to our primal skill set, and using this camera and using these microphones to speak up about how we need to respect one another and how we need to change our values in our family, and create podcasts and websites and blogs around that. Like just overnight, Queen, beauty became a phenomenon on YouTube. There are so many Black women doing tutorials and blogs, makeup and hair, but she ain't talking about, well, we're all getting shots, and how some of us are not getting shots, and how we're dying of COVID. There's no cultural bum rush or phenomenon from the Black community about that, and that's more important. So we have to change our value system as women and make that contagious, make that go viral. If a silhouette challenge can go viral, imagine a hashtag around social change and focus
Facts.
from women,
Yes.
and then begin to create culture around that. So the call to action is to let go to death culture and to unite, to know that every woman that has a womb has the ability to change this dynamic through her children, and to create principles that respect one another's culture and to learn one another's culture, and to begin to raise human beings around that. Beginning to raise human beings around that.
So the last question is, how do we help you, right? In regards to supporting your work, the anyone who is in the audience that is watching that, wants to support your work, right? You gave us the call to action, but if there's any way for the audience to support your work, how would they go about that?
Well, I'm simple. You know, just follow me on Instagram. Subscribe to me on Instagram.
Right.
I don't have any business cards to give to you at this time. I don't have any fancy website to give to you at this time. I don't feel like it. I, I
I don't feel like
just
it.
your
Yeah.
relationship to me on Instagram. And as I begin to create steps around real estate, around credit literacy, around my advocacy, around defending ourselves and the right to protect ourselves, just regular um, boss minded shit around a militant minded woman, a socially conscious woman, just being connected to me. I don't want to be one of those Von Zants and Oprahs. Join my book club, subscribe to my newsletter. Make sure you sign up for my
I would join your book club though, sis. I would join your book club though.
my, I don't have
But
any
no, I
books
feel you. No,
necessarily
I feel
share
you.
because it's an experience. I
No,
just
I
want
feel
people
you.
to open up to experience,
Yes.
because the books aren't working.
No,
People are
right.
books everywhere and they still ain't shit. They
Right.
still don't have the literacy, the spiritual literacy, how to navigate this, how to understand your quote unquote enemy, and understanding your enemy ain't your enemy. They're your greatest teacher. They're the polarity. You know what I'm saying? And that comes from spiritual intelligence, and that's silence. That's taking time in nature. That's deep. That's signing off of social media. That's finding yourself again without all of the glamour and the glitz that is around false power. Black people are not powerful at this time. They are not spiritually intelligent. The European is and the Jew is mystically and spiritually intelligent. And they use that mystical knowledge and that craftsmanship on us every day because we lost our connectedness to the divine, spiritual intelligence, and the tools around that spiritual intelligence. And that's something that comes from the innate knowledge. That comes from taking trips to Peru and South America, doing ayahuasca and magic mushrooms. And that's a whole other topic. But it's work, it's spiritual work. And you have to let this physical materialistic world go first before you can tap in. Otherwise, you're not lost. You're a whole robot and you're programmed by the society that's running you. You have to tap in organically by deprogramming yourself from this world that was created for you.
Putting in the
So I'm
spiritual work, and if you don't put in the spiritual work, you're not a boss. And I
not a
and
boss.
I and I agree with just like how do we support your
I'm
work?
fine.
Honestly, yeah, like but the call of action that you've described has a lot to do with self-education and reflection and truth
Yes.
telling and drinking that big old cup of truth, right?
Yes.
And yes,
Yes.
being connected to you is how you help my work. How do you
That's
support
it.
me, Ciesia? Tune in, lean in to the teachings so
That's
that
it.
we
Just
may do the work that we need to do, like over here in our living
not
rooms.
yet. I don't have no master class and all that shit for you yet
Nah,
because I
but
don't I don't want followers. I want family members. I want relatives. I want people that can relate with me. I don't want subscribers. I don't want followers. I want relatives.
yeah,
I want people that I could just go online and just start building or have an event and they're there and showing up because they relate.
yeah,
And then next thing you know, we're coming together and we got to go fund me in a campaign. This is how we do it.
right,
We coming together and now we building around land. And then the
right.
next thing you know, all of the relatives is now building around a community, like the people that did in Georgia. That shit ain't starting with somebody joining some master class. They just somebody did a call to action out there. Yo, boom, this is how we do. And I'm from a nation. I come from the culture in the era and the time where of nations, Nation of Islam, 5% Nation, the Black Panther community. These are nations, these are communities, the Ansar community. These are people I grew up around. These are nations of brothers and sisters around a particular consciousness. The Pan African community, the RBG community. These are communities that I come from, that I deterred from that whole street life shit and decided to do that. And we know that that's not something that requires a master class or some shit. That's some that's some new age shit. It's just straight Allah you Akbar. I got some land. Come put up $20. Boom, let's get it.
That's a
We
family affair. That's a
that's
family
a family
affair.
affair. I don't need all that other shit. When I
Yeah.
say that I'm about to start teaching something in regards to this and that, just be there. Pay the 25, $50, whatever. Show up. That's it. We ain't got time for all that master class. Join my website shit. People are dying out here.
Nah, that's facts. That's
You
facts.
feel me?
And so your call to action is critical. It's essential to survival. It's essential to thriving. I mean, survival is first, but thriving is the ultimate goal. And the call to action that you have given is it. And to continue, but like I said, the foundation of your action that you're calling is to educate and reflect and go inward and circumcision, right? Like cutting off certain things that have been attached to us for so long and our values and shifting paradigms and like that's a deep work, but it's a necessary work. It's a
Say
necessary
it
work.
again. It's necessary work,
Yeah,
spiritual work,
yeah,
letting go all of this nonsense. It's COVID. What are you doing? We
In
inside.
the living room, get your life.
We inside.
You,
Like this was the total
yeah,
reflection
I
and the total
know.
reality that we inside.
Right. So what other way? What are you doing that you can't get your mind right? You in your
Your
living room
babies
for
are
almost a
home.
year.
Your
Right.
baby, look, Queen, and I
Right.
know you gotta do it. Look, check it out. Stores are shut down. The malls are done. We are not, we are now heading into the residual effects of what happened last year. That's 2021 coming up. It's over. It's done. Life as you wanted it is done. And even if it resumes, you now got a damn operating system in your arm called Moderna.
Which is a
So,
whole nother episode. Don't even touch it, Queen. That's a whole
mother,
nother episode.
you mom, you woman, you,
So
you doing this.
yes. So I just want to say this before we part ways, right? And I wasn't going to say this after we parted ways. I'm going to say this to you, right? And I think I told you this that day downtown many years ago, but it's only one other person besides you that day downtown that I thanked you for the courage to be you.
Mm,
Okay. The courage to have said yes to what it is that's in your mouth, right? And the
mm,
courage to be you. And so I thank you for the courage to be you. I thank you for telling us the truth. And whether you like it or not, like, take a chaser. You know what I mean? Like, it's the truth
I
and it
do.
needs to be told. But the only
I,
other person that I ever said that to was the great Amiri Baraka
Father.
before he
He a Libra,
passed away.
he a
And
Libra
so
too. I
oh,
but
I
tell you,
didn't know he was, I didn't know he was a
bang
Libra.
bang.
But so like I just want to say that like especially on Sidewalk Talk, like a lot of times, sometimes even as frontline workers, like we don't necessarily feel seen or heard or appreciated on some days. And this work is hard. This work is hard. And there are some days that like feel real defeated. And like,
This
well, what's the point of all this? Because this is huge and it's big work and it's deep work and it's rooted in history and cycles and like it's so complicated. And I just want to appreciate you. I want to give you your flowers now.
thank you.
That you are appreciated. You are a powerhouse asset to this
Yeah,
community. And like,
yeah.
the community would be worse off without you, my love. So I just
Gotta
have to
shake
say
the
that to
room.
you. Yes.
Gotta shake the room. You know what I mean? Shake the inner room and lose this insanity. I just basically gave auto and a biography of the mania of our culture and how we have been as women very instrumental in that mania by accepting it and not changing the trajectory of how we need to move forward. And that is grooming sons to be let loose to do the work to protect the mission that we have to bring forth. They're born to protect what we implement as the manifestation of the Almighty Mind. Their job is to protect that and secure our vision. That's it.
I appreciate you. I
Appreciate
appreciate you. And I thank you for your time. I hope everybody had their notebooks out and they took the notes
I'm
that was
all over the
necessary.
place, but so are we.
No, no, it's all good. This was priceless. This was priceless. And so I thank you for your time. And we will talk soon.
Oh, no doubt.
All right. Bye, love. Family, family, family. That right there. I can't even summarize the call of action. Usually we summarize the call of action, but you heard it straight from her mouth. Just kind of in general, it does start with us. It does start within us, reflecting on ourselves, doing the work that we need to do on the inside of us. That's kind of where it starts, but that is the call to action. And play your part, right? As I was talking about the young girls that I work with or the young men that I work with, like, be a mentor, right? If you're raising children, raise them according to what was even discussed in this episode right here, right? Mentor a child, speak to a young man on the block that nobody spoke to all morning, right? Say good morning. Let's just embrace and mentor and pour. into our neighbors, into our families. Leadership starts with us, right? So you can continue to find me, Seeds and Berries, at Facebook, on Facebook, Seeds and Berries on Instagram, LinkedIn, Aaliyah Berry, and more about my services at seedsandberries.com. But if you missed this episode live, then check it out on the Seeds and Berries YouTube channel. Like and subscribe, share, so that this message, again, can go far and wide for impact. We are continuing with Black History Month here on Sidewalk Talk. And so next time, right? Next time here, next time, February 20th, right? We're going to talk about strategy. We're going to talk about strategy, past, present, and future. The guest that I have on February 20th is a longtime community activist for probably 30, 40, maybe more than 40 years, a longtime community activist here in Newark, definitely is an elder in activism. And so we're going to talk about strategy, right? The past, the present, and the future. Other than that, everybody continue to work on yourselves. Thank you for your support on tonight. All honor to my guests on tonight. And this is Real Talk on Sidewalk Talk. My name's Aaliyah Berry. Have a good night.